Welcome to the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel. I'm your host, ArmaniTalks. In this channel, I'm covering communication skills for you to level up your way with words and become much more articulate. In today's episode, we're entering the world of social skills, and I'm going to talk about how to deal with interruptions. In one of my past apartment complexes, I noticed a very funny dynamic going on. This dynamic included three different individuals. The first guy was roughly 70 years old. His name was Bill, and he was the go-to handyman of this apartment complex. He was normally very serious, okay? That's Bill. The next guy was a guy that was younger than Bill, and I would say he was in his late 60s. His name was Joe. Joe was very energetic. Okay, he was sort of like a child trapped in an adult's body. And typically, Joe would do activities that Bill was not physically capable of doing. Because Bill is in his 70s, he's not as strong as he once was. Joe, for some reason, he has that old man strength. So he'll do a lot of the physical labor. And the third person was a woman. I don't recall the woman's name, but I would say that she was in the middle of Bill and Joe in terms of age. She was a little bit younger than Bill and was a little bit older than Joe. And the woman, she would do a lot of the small activities, like painting the doors, letting people back in who got locked out, washing the windows and such. And I basically had my apartment in a way where I worked right by the window, and typically I would leave the window open so I could feel the breeze on me. And as I had the window open, I would see and hear the interaction among what I will call the three stooges. See, even though Bill and Joe, they were different in terms of strength, where Bill was weak, Joe was strong. They were different in terms of personality, where Bill was serious, Joe was playful. They were identical in terms of their deep voice. When they spoke, you heard them. You're never like, can you say that again? You heard them. And this was a problem for the woman, because plenty of times, this woman, it's not like she had a soft voice or anything. It's just that her voice was not as strong as Bill and Joe. So whenever she was talking to Bill and Joe, they would just effortlessly cut her off. And it wasn't something that was just happening once or twice. It was routinely happening. And when I saw this lady consistently getting cut off like that, I thought, man, somewhat sucks for her, but maybe she's soldiering through it. Maybe it's not bothering her. But I was wrong. She was clearly getting agitated. You could tell from her body language. And every now and then, she would try to speak up louder when she knew that she was on the verge of getting cut off. But she was no match for Bill and Joe's deep voice. And it's not like this lady was quiet by any means. Whenever she was working with the individual apartment owners, she was full of stories. Okay, so she could hold her own in a conversation. But whenever you took her away from the individual apartment owners and you placed her with Bill and Joe, she was demoted to a resident head nodder. Okay, she wasn't allowed to speak. And this was annoying her a lot. And I'm pretty sure that she was going to throw in the towel. Until one day, she discovered a strange fix. She realized that she could not cut off Bill and Joe, but she could do something different. What she was going to do was she was going to continue to speak even while Bill and Joe were speaking. So let's say Bill is over here talking about his day, sort of like I'm speaking right now. At the same time, this woman would be talking and offering her thoughts. At the same time, they're not waiting for one another. And when this lady was doing that, this rattled Bill and Joe. Whenever she would not stop talking, when they began talking, they felt as though something was wrong. It's like a mosquito was stinging them, but they had no clue where the stinging sensation was. They're just like, And they began second guessing themselves a lot. Okay? And soon, they began to second guess themselves. They began to sound unconfident in their message. And this lady, she found these two's Achilles heel. Now, a lot of people, when they're listening to this story right now, they're like, good for the lady, right? She finally stuck up for herself and she got her revenge. And I think in many ways that this is funny. This is an amusing solution. But I would say that this solution is more so born out of anger than practicality. Now, granted, every now and then I believe anger is justified. Maybe this lady views Bill and Joe simply as a joke. They occupy only a sliver of her day. She still has a life. So she's like, let me just check these two real quick and then let me go back to my life. This is one of those situations where the anger served some use in relationship to this lady's life. But if she was married to a Bill or Joe, then her strategy has to change because she's over here spending a significant amount of time with one of them. And that's when she has to actually be like, I want to be heard by these folks. I don't just want to be making them second guess themselves. I want to feel heard. So what should this lady do? The first thing I think a lot of people should understand is that this is a very common problem where a lot of guys, they naturally have deep voices and they will effortlessly cut off a lot of women or a lot of individuals with soft voices, and they are not aware at all that this is happening. There was actually a situation in Obama's presidency where he reported something very similar happening to him, where he was with his senior staff and they were having these routine meetings. And Obama was shocked by how well these meetings were going. Everyone's joking, having a good time, ideas are flowing. Obama thinks everything's going well. But one day, a bunch of the women from the senior team comes to Obama and they're like, Mr. President, we're tired of consistently getting cut off by our male counterparts. Please fix this. And Obama was like, what? Really? I didn't even know that this was happening. So a lot of these folks that are cutting you off have zero clue that they are hurting your confidence. Bill and Joe had no clue that this lady held such resentment towards them. So view it like that. A lot of the times when we are getting cut off by someone, we view it as this person being very malicious, that they're thinking about cutting us off, while in reality, that is not the case. It's very similar to losing weight, because when you're losing weight, let's say you're going on a 6-month diet and you actually are losing weight, but you're with yourself all the time. So when you look at the mirror, you're like, I look the exact same. But once the 6 months are up, and let's say someone who hasn't seen you since your diet sees you for the first time, they're going to be like, whoa, you look so different. Why did they notice something and not you? It's because you're with yourself all the time. And whenever we're too familiar with something, we don't stay too aware of it. So a lot of these people that are cutting you off, they're too familiar with their voice. So they're not aware that they're being disrespectful towards you. Okay? Now, what should this lady do if Bill or Joe were her husband? She should let them know. She should just say, hey, look, I don't know if you're aware of this, but you have the habit of cutting me off a lot. Not just every now and then, but a lot. And I would appreciate if you would let me finish my points. In addition to that, other times she needs to be more assertive herself, where she says, look, and you got to use the palms. If you're just using your voice to make them stop, that's not going to work. But if you do, wait, I'm not complete yet. This visually engages them, along with their ears engages them. Okay? When you're going to approach them and let them know, hey, fam, you got the habit of cutting me off, you don't want to view it in the lens of, I'm confronting this person, which even if you're not viewing it from that narrative, that's going to be the default position. Because if this lady was going up to Bill or Joe, she's feeling as though she has been wronged, and she is pretty much exacting revenge on the people who did her wrong. So she's going to come in with a hostile attitude, and she's actually going to feel nervous as well. We don't like it when we're about to confront someone. So rather than viewing it as us confronting someone, just say, look, these folks are ignorant and I am simply making them aware. This narrative allows us to have a very gentle tone and a very understanding tone as well. We understand that these folks do not mean any harm. It's just that they don't know any better. They don't know any better because they're too familiar with their voice. And due to being familiar with their voice, they cut off others left and right, and they're just blind to it. You are now shedding light into their ignorance. So try that out for yourself. Approach it with the attitude of they're ignorant and I'm making them aware, rather than I'm confronting them for all the wrongs that they did to me. And by doing that, hopefully they begin to cut you off less and less and less. Thank you very much for joining the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel, and I'll catch you next time.